Dallan Hayden has said that he's transferring. Where's he going? And what's next for Ohio State? Ohio State has two stud running backs going into the 2024 college football season in Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. The third man of that group was supposed to be Dallan Hayden. However, it looks like Dallan Hayden has told the Ohio State staff that he intends to transfer and move on from Ohio State following these spring practices. If you did not know that Quinshon Judkins was at Ohio State, you would have thought Ohio State was going to be completely fine because Dallan Hayden is somebody that Ohio State fans have been very happy with. There was this weird situation about redshirting him last year. I think some people were very confused about that. I know I was, especially in a situation where you had him as possibly the second or the third best running back on the team. He should have still got playing time. However, that's not here nor there. Hayden did inform the Buckeye staff that he intends to transfer this upcoming spring portal. I don't know if he's with the team anymore. There's nothing been reported about that. However, at the end of the day, he does not plan to continue to be with Ohio State following this portal. Rumors said that it would happen after Quinshon Judkins transferred to Ohio State, but we never saw anything happen, and we never heard anything from Dallan Hayden. Now, he is kind of a quiet guy, doesn't get super emotive in the media or anything like that, so that could be a piece of it. But after he was redshirted in 2023, people felt like it was a very strange situation. He had 111 carries for 553 yards and 5 touchdowns in 2022. So when you have a 500-yard rusher and then you just redshirt him the next year later, it just seems like a weird situation, and nobody was really sure about what was going on there, and it sounded like Ohio State just kind of wanted to keep him because they wanted more options going into the future. We certainly wish Dallan Hayden the best, and wherever he decides to go with his football career. Obviously, there is one school in particular that took a running back coach from us that we do not want him to go to. However, at the end of the day, we wish him nothing but the best and hope that he continues in his career and does well. Let's look at some of the transfer options for Dallan Hayden. Transfer options include Tennessee is one of the big ones people have been talking about. From Tennessee, he was close in his recruiting. He was very close in his recruiting battle with Ohio State in Tennessee when Ohio State was trying to get him to come to Ohio State. Obviously, that is where he eventually went, but he is also the son of a former Tennessee Volunteer running back, and Aaron Hayden, who is pretty well known around Tennessee as well. And Tennessee, it looks like the place to beat. However, on 24/7, some of their staff writers are saying they don't think it's as much of a done deal as maybe some people think. They're pretty confident with the running back room they have now. Dylan Sampson, Cameron Seldon, Peyton Lewis is a true freshman coming in there, their third guy. I tend to believe that Dallan Hayden is an upgrade over most starting running backs in college football. I'm not going to say like 95% or something crazy like that just because we don't know for sure, but I tend to think he's one of the better ones in college football this year. So I think that he could make a real impact for Tennessee. However, that's just what their writers are saying. Who really knows? But I still think Tennessee is a likely place for him. Another place getting some love is Missouri as well. We keep hearing them mentioned, but they did sign two very good Sun Belt running backs in the portal in Marcus Carroll and Nate Noel from Georgia State and App State. So these guys are two good guys who came in the portal and should be contributors this year. They did lose Cody Schrader, who will no longer be there this season. He was a huge piece for them. But Eli Drinkwitz, maybe he did some recruiting during the bowl game. Maybe he figured out a little bit and said, hey, we need a running back next year. I'm going to go over to this third string guy or the second string guy next year who should be pretty good at Ohio State. Maybe he did a little bit of recruiting. Who knows? But it was clear from Dallan Hayden's recruitment that he wanted to go to the SEC, that he values SEC football. He is originally from Tennessee, so that, plays a factor into the Tennessee that we were talking about. But it is clear in his recruitment, he was getting recruited from a lot of Tennessee schools and a lot of SEC schools, and a lot of those SEC schools were getting visits as well. Another one who isn't in the SEC but might get some consideration, who really knows what the relationship is there between him and the coach, and it's Michigan. We don't know for sure if he has any animosity toward Tony Alford. I think a lot of people assume that he does because of the red shirt, and Ohio State typically allows their position coaches to kind of take care of the lineups and the rotations and things like that. Now, Now, we know that it was not really a great situation between Ryan Day and Tony Alford. So was Ryan Day a little bit more hands-on? Was that maybe Ryan Day's choice instead of Tony Alford's? I don't think so. Most media are saying that it was probably Tony Alford's choice, so I tend to believe that. I couldn't see it happening, but therefore, I mean, he does know Tony Alford, so who knows? It might happen. It's an option to consider. I just don't think it's a likely one. Another one would be Notre Dame. Notre Dame was pretty high up there in Dallan Hayden's recruiting as well. That was one of the other non-SEC schools that Dallan Hayden was considering pretty heavily. Notre Dame did develop Audric Estime pretty well. So in his 3 seasons with Notre Dame, so they could be selling him on that and saying, hey, come on over to Notre Dame. We'll see what happens here. It's an option. Do I think it's a great one? No, not really, but it could definitely happen. Memphis, this is where Dallan Hayden is from. If Dallan Hayden wants to go somewhere and be kind of the guaranteed starter, Memphis is kind of the place that would do that. And it is very close to where he's from, which is literally Memphis, Tennessee. So it's close to home. It would be a guaranteed starter situation if that's what he's looking for, more carries, more playing time, stuff like that. But with Blake Watson going off to the NFL, that's huge. Blake Watson off to the NFL. He was one of their star rushers last year, and that kind of opens up the place for Dallan Hayden to come in and possibly be the guy at Memphis. Another one, this is kind of like my sleeper pick because, they have an opening since their running back just left and went to Ohio State. Ole Miss. Is Lane Kiffin going to be petty? Go after Ohio State's running back after Ohio State went after his? At the end of the day, it's not really petty. You just try to improve your team as best you can. So Lane Kiffin may actually look at Dallan Hayden here. Ole Miss's location is fairly close to Memphis, Tennessee. I think it actually might be closer to time-wise to Memphis than Knoxville, Tennessee is. So that could be a benefit there. Who knows? But I wouldn't be surprised if Hayden enters the portal and we hear rumblings about him taking visits to Ole Miss and possibly, hearing more from Lane Kiffin. Like I said, Hayden was interested in the SEC schools. So my pick for where Dallan Hayden will go is most likely Missouri or Tennessee. I feel like those are the most likely options, but my sleeper pick that it could happen. Maybe it's not likely. We may never hear anything about this school, but it's something that could happen is Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin. That running back room is still good. They have Ulysses Bennett still there, so that's somebody who could be very good, but if they kind of want a 1-2 punch and somebody who has a little bit more experience, Dallan Hayden could be the guy to do that. I don't know if Dallan Hayden wants to do that. Again, that's kind of for him to decide. Does he want to be the bell cow back? Does he want to be in a rotation? Doesn't seem like he does since he kind of got out of what would have been a rotation this year, but who knows? We'll go from there. This does leave Ohio State in a pretty dangerous position with their running backs, right? This does leave them in a situation where, hey, we have our top 2 guys, but Ohio State has had history with injuries. Now, Quinshon Judkins has not at Ole Miss, so that's very beneficial for Ohio State. However, TreVeyon Henderson, 2 out of his 3 years at Ohio State, has struggled with injuries. So I'm not going to put the injury prone label on anybody. I don't like that label because I don't think that it's always applicable to everybody. However, it's no denying that he has struggled with injuries throughout the season. And what do we hear from Ohio State? We're hearing a ton about how this is a long season. We need guys who are ready. We need guys who can play and who are going to get through stuff. And, we need guys behind them when the starters aren't able to get through stuff. I mean, this is going to be a long season if Ohio State plays the 16 games that they expect to play this entire season. So behind Hayden, there's not much. There's James Peoples, the recruit, number 7 or 8 recruit running back in the nation, I believe he was. And so he's capable. I think he can be that third running back. A lot of times freshman running back coming in can be a very good thing because kind of have those fresh legs and they're getting well acclimated to college football. It does help that Ohio State is going to most likely be running a system if Will Howard is the quarterback, where the quarterback is running more. So this will be a situation where we have CJ Stroud, who, we think he wasn't allowed to run, or Kyle McCord, who really didn't have the ability as well to run as maybe some other quarterbacks. And he would step out every now and then and maybe go out and slide, but he didn't have the ability to take a hit like a Will Howard does or somebody like that. Another one who's back there is Sam Williams-Dixon. I think he's probably more of a little bit of a development project. I don't think he's one that you really want playing his freshman season. He might surprise us, but I don't think he's one that you really want that. And then then walk-on TC Caffey. He is a sophomore, and he is somebody, redshirt sophomore, I believe. He is somebody who could come in and actually get some carries. Now, never want to hear about a walk-on coming in and get carries, but from what we hear, TC Caffey is one of the better walk-ons that Ohio State has had, and he's really working hard. He's one of those guys that's always in the film room, always taking notes, always doing everything he can to try to get on the field. So I don't think that we feel super confident if TC Caffey is the third or the fourth back in the rotation this season, but it does make you feel a little bit better knowing that he has been impressive as a walk-on and somebody who could find himself getting a scholarship to Ohio State at some point. Injuries are going to wreak havoc for Ohio State. We know that they're going to happen. We just hope they don't happen in the running back room. Chip Kelly should be able to run up the score enough to get these guys out of the game sooner. But we do need to look at a couple transfer option guys who might be able to come in and be a piece for Ohio State this year. 6-year senior. He is a grad transfer. Kayron Lynch-Adams. He is from Warren, Ohio. Played at Rutgers for 2 years. I think he was in the 2019 class. And then he's played the last 3 years at UMass. Finally got his chance to start last year and make some things happen. And boy, did he run with it. 236 carries, 1,157 yards, and 12 touchdowns last year in 2023. You might be saying, why did somebody who had such a great season at UMass, why would they be looking at coming to Ohio State? A UMass insider said something about he has a child now and he's looking at trying to make some more NIL money. So sounds like Ohio State pays better for their third or fourth string running back than UMass does for their starting running back at their school, which, that's just the NIL world we live in nowadays. But that would be something that, would make more sense about why he's looking at Ohio State to be in a rotation rather than to be the bell cow back at some place like UMass, which is a little bit smaller, but still is a college that is still a Division I college that you can be the bell cow starting running back at. There's also the possibility of Ohio State looking at some younger portal targets, right? That's going to be one of the biggest things. If Ohio State gets Kaytron Lynch-Allen, if they get Kaytron Lynch-Adams, I apologize. If they have Trevion Henderson, if they have Quinshon Judkins, you presume that Judkins is going to go to the NFL after this year. He's somebody that's talked about he doesn't want a ton of wear and tear on his body, so that way he can do well in the NFL. So you presume he's gone. Trevion Henderson is out of eligibility, and Kaytron Lynch-Adams is out of eligibility as well. So that's 3 guys. You're left with a running back room. If it stays in place the way it is, the recruits from 2025, James Peoples, Sam Williams-Dixon. It's not a big enough running back room. So you want to try and possibly get a younger portal guy in here as well. Some guys that Ohio State has talked to in the 2023 or 2024 class have offered that they were kind of close with, but didn't seem to seal the deal, that have had staffing changes at their school over the years recently are Justice Haynes at Alabama, Mark Fletcher from Miami. I know Ohio State fans love to hear his name, but his running back coach did leave after 1 year to go back to another school. I think it was UCF there in Florida. Richard Young is another one from Alabama that you might see there. And then Jadarian Price from Notre Dame. He's kind of been getting special teams work over at Notre Dame. Doesn't sound like he's going to be a huge piece to the puzzle there. And so these could be some guys that you would look at and say, maybe Ohio State talks to if they do entertain the portal, if they do try to go in there and just see what is available. But the biggest thing is recruiting, right? Ohio State needs to fix these issues with recruiting. They can't just go in and get guys in the portal and say it is what it is, because you're going to continue to lose guys to the portal as well. That's the world of college football we live in nowadays. And so Ohio State is going to have to address some of these things in recruiting. Bill Kurlick, Berm, and others that you follow in recruiting who know what they're talking about, they stated that they believe Ohio State will take 2 guys this year in the 2025 recruiting class, Jordan Davison and Bo Jackson. Those were the 2 guys that everybody was looking at. Everybody also kind of wanted Marquise Davis, guys like that. However, those seem to be the 2 guys that Ohio State led the most with. However, this Dallan Hayden news, I think, does change things. If you don't get a young guy in the portal, even if you do get a young guy in the portal, I think you're going to want 3 guys in this class. You're going to want Coach Locklyn to be able to kind of bring his own guys in and make this class the way that he sees he's fit. And so it's going to be important for them to bring at least 2 guys, possibly 3. Who knows? He might even bring in 4. One of his other guys that he's offered lately that maybe Ohio State didn't have their radar on before, maybe a little bit under recruited, but somebody that he might say, hey, I believe in this kid. He's a tough worker. He's going to be a culture guy for this room. We'll see what happens there. But who were some of the guys that could make it 3? Well, I just mentioned him earlier, Marquise Davis. He's been to Michigan twice in the past 2 weeks, so obviously he's very interested up there. Ever since Tony Alford went there, he has kind of shifted his focus. He didn't really know Coach Locklyn all that well, so this is a brand new relationship for him. I think the longer that Marquise Davis keeps his commitment open, the better for Ohio State. This is not a situation where you want him to schedule a commitment date for next week or something like that. If that happens, I think that's really bad news for Ohio State. But many recruiting sites say Ohio State, they're just out of it. They're not anywhere in it. They're not giving them hardly any chance. However, at Ohio State, the recruiting is always doing well, and there is always a possibility of getting right back in there with somebody. So I think if Coach Locklyn really tries hard enough, he could find himself in a situation looking for Ohio State to be leading for Marquise Davis, or at least in the race for Marquise Davis, at least at some point. And I mean, he has done his work. He's supposed to come back to campus Wednesday, April 10th, and then he's supposed to be back for the spring game on April 13th as well. At least one of those 2 dates, hopefully both. We'll see what happens, but that's good news for Ohio State if they try to get a 3rd guy. And as many people know, Marquise Davis, Cleveland guy, that's somebody that you want in this class. You want to keep your Ohio guys there. Another one is Byron Lewis. He was newly offered from Locklyn, coming in top 300 ranked, about like Dallan Hayden, or I don't know if it was after Locklyn came in or before, but he's recently been offered, but top 300 ranked like Dallan Hayden was. He'll visit Wednesday, April 10th, so it sounds like there's a good amount of guys coming in that day. A couple running backs there, so that'll be good. Shakai Mills-Knight is somebody that Berm mentioned that Locklyn recently offered. De'Aaron Hill is somebody that he also mentioned that Locklyn recently offered. So some of these guys could be who we're seeing as maybe the 3rd guy. I don't think you're going to get somebody like Marquise Davis. If you do get Jordan Davison and Bo Jackson, those are 3 stars to bring into the class. Byron Lewis, maybe, but he still seems like he has a good amount of hype around the country. People are really interested in him. So I really feel like you're probably going to get Shakai Mills-Knight or De'Aaron Hill probably in there. Maybe both of them. We'll see. But those seem like the more likely candidates to be a 3rd guy in the class, because it's just how recruiting works, right? People don't want to go and be the 3rd guy in a class if they're could go to Florida, or they could go to UCF, or if they could go to USC and be the 1st guy in the class. I'm just listing off random names. I don't know if any of those guys would actually go there, but if they could be the number 1 guy in the class. Marquise Davis would be the number 1 guy, number 1 running back in Michigan's class, though. So be the 3rd guy in Ohio State's running back class, or be the 1st guy in Michigan's running back class. Kind of hard to turn that down. I would think for an Ohio kid, you wouldn't want to go up there, but at the end of the day, it's recruiting, it's your future, and you're just trying to make the best of it. So we'll see what happens there. Another name, Jeffrey Overton. He's somebody who's kind of been a little bit under recruited out of Virginia, somebody that I think Ohio State could also have some good chances with there. But these are kind of the situations. Dallan Hayden is out, most likely going to either Tennessee or Missouri. Sleeper pick of Ole Miss. We'll see what happens there. And then we're also looking at a situation where Ohio State is going to have to expand their recruiting base. Coach Locklyn's going to have a very busy year. He's coming in the middle of spring, coming in the middle of recruiting, and he's going to have to get going and really recruit some guys out of the portal. Like I said, K'Ron Lynch out, Adams possibly, and then hopefully another young portal target for Ohio State. Maybe somebody they recently recruited who had some attrition on their staff. We'll see what happens. At the end of the day, we trust the Buckeyes. We trust Ryan Day that they're going to be able to figure out this recruiting stuff. They're going to be able to figure out what to do next. And I'm just glad we still have Travion Henderson and Quishon Judkins, because those guys are going to be really special this year, and I can't wait to watch. So thanks for watching, everybody. Check me out on Twitter, JR's rankings, JR's_rankings. And then also over on the Big Ten Huddle, our channel changed, so it is the College Huddle now. The College Huddle, you'll see a microphone with like the conferences around it. That's us. The Big Ten Huddle is a part of that now, so go over and check that out. We'd love to have you come visit us. We appreciate it. Thank you, Buckeye Nation. Have a good one.